Connected to iPhone. Connected to Galaxy Tab A2016.
Moving to LA, some things that were very weird to me were the crackheads. Crackheads were very weird. Chicago, we have top of the line crackheads. Top of the line. Can't get better than them. I got you Hollywood, very different crackhead. You know, I was walking on Hollywood Boulevard. Don't know if anybody's been here, but Hollywood Boulevard's where all the stars were. All the stars on the ground. People, everybody who visits Hollywood goes there. Somebody was walking, right? Regular guy had a camera on his chest, so I assumed he was a tourist or a pervert who was not shy about letting people know. He put his whole human face on Marilyn Monroe's star to take a selfie. I'm like, yo, you got hepatitis A through Z now, fam. Get your face off that damn street. Where's your father? So as I'm yelling at this stranger, this crackhead walks up to me behind me, right? He was like, hey, brother! Brother, come here! I don't know why he was rubbing himself like this. I didn't ask him because I didn't want to know the answer. If I walked up to you and I said, hey, brother, how you doing? I was rubbing myself. Would you ask me why? No, nigga, you wouldn't. But I was looking at his eyes. I was trying not to look down. I was like, hey, what's up, man? He was like, come here. He was already this close. I was like, nigga, you in my face. I took one finger and I was like, there's no more here for me to come, motherfucker. Back up. He's like, oh. I'm sorry, I don't know space. Hey. Pick a card. Any card. He didn't have a card in his goddamn hands, people. Not one fucking card. I looked down at his hand like, where the fuck are the cards, man? He looked down at his hand like he was surprised with me. Oh. Well, then I guess ta-da. You can't well, then I guess. You can't stumble upon magic. You're unprepared, you son of a bitch. Then he walked away, bumping into people. Excuse me, ta-da. You can't hand out ta-da. The hell are you doing? I called my friend. I was so mad at this crackhead. I called my friend like, yo, dog, I'm so fucking pissed off. He's like, what happened? I was talking to this crackhead. My friend was like, your fault. Yeah, you're right. Now hug up the fuck. Because I accept when I'm wrong. I saw him again, though. Saw him again, same street. It's different people there. This lady, her name was Rebecca. She was having a birthday. It's my birthday. Very drunk. Wouldn't shut the fuck up. And a friend was helping her walk, like, yes, Rebecca, it's your birthday. Use your legs, bitch, down. It's a solid friendship. And as they're walking down the street, this magical crackhead jumped out the bushes. Now listen, I don't know how long this man been sitting in these bushes, but his timing was impeccable. Amazing. I give you a quick replay so you saw how I saw it. It's my birthday. Yes, Rebecca, it's your birthday. Use your legs, bitch. Damn. Crackhead on cue. Don't nobody give a damn about your birthday. Then he walked back in the bushes. What? Yo, I've never seen a grown man walk back in some bushes like he had other shit to attend to. Y'all keep it down out here. I'm in here rubbing my nipples and doing experiments. What? Yo, I had to know what he was about. I had to ask him the questions. I had to give him some money if he needed it, but I wasn't bringing my black ass in those bushes. That's how he got there, little crackhead Narnia. You can never leave unless it's a white lady's birthday. So I wasn't walking in those bushes. But I walked outside of the bushes. I said the one thing I could think of to get him to pop out so I could ask him some questions and help him out if he needed it, right? So I walked outside the bushes. I was like, yo, it's my birthday too. I thought that was his thing. He's like, not again. You know what I mean? But he didn't. He didn't pop out at all. All I heard from the bushes was, no it ain't. Like, how the fuck you know that, bro? Whoa. Whoa. Yo, and I said under my breath, I was like, man, this nigga is magic. And then as soon as I said that, he was like, ta-da. Please give it up. Moving to LA, some things that were very weird to me were the crackheads. Crackheads were very weird.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Now, in a week where Facebook took down pages and photos making jokes about violence against women, I thought it was an appropriate time to discuss a controversy about rape jokes that's been raging in the comedy community for at least a year. My first guest is a comedian who doesn't hold anything sacred. He makes fun of cancer, AIDS, and even his own passion for getting peed on. He's a no-hold-barred comic who thinks nothing is off limits. Please welcome Jim Norton, everybody. Jim Norton. And my second guest is the woman who literally wrote the blog on what's wrong with rape jokes. She's calling everybody from Louis C.K. to Daniel Tosh, and now she's ready to put Jim on blast. Please welcome Jezebel staff writer Lindy West, everybody. Lindy West. So, thank you both for coming for our first edition of Comic vs. Feminist.
And thank you for mentioning I like to be peed on. I wanted that in the intro.
It said so in your writer. You don't read your writer?
Yeah, no, well, I drank it backstage.
So Jim, just getting off the bat, do you think that comedians should be able to say whatever they want to say without any repercussions?
Well, I mean, if you're trying to be funny, I think. I mean, everybody knows the difference between saying something, like Michael Richards said something in anger. And reasonable people can sense when you're trying to be funny and when you're trying to be angry. So if you're trying to say something funny, yeah, I think like Matt and Trey said from South Park, it's either all okay or none of it's okay. Like you did some very funny stuff on the Teapot and Hitler.
Oh, thank you.
It was great.
Thank you.
But there are people who associate Hitler with some really bad stuff. So
what? My writers, get out here! What the hell is that?
But you know what I mean? It's like if we go down that road of, hey, don't make fun of this, don't make fun of that, well, then people have a very legit argument to go, well, don't mention Hitler in any context, because there's never humor. So I'm just not comfortable going down that road. I just think as long as you're trying to be funny, you're okay.
And so I say the question to you, Lindy. Do you think comics should be able to say what they want without any consequences?
Well, first of all, I think that question is dumb.
Thank you very much.
Because...
Good start for me, good start.
No.
Hey, this is comic, fitness for this comic, not this comic, going over there.
So sorry. No, because everything has repercussions. So if you're talking about legal repercussions, yeah, I do not think that comedy should be censored, and we're not here to talk about censorship, and I'm pretty sure we agree. What I'm talking about is the kind of repercussion where you choose to say something that, like, traumatizes a person who's already been victimized, and then I choose to call you a dick, and that's the repercussion. Like,
all right. How do you feel about dick repercussions?
I totally agree with you, and she's not calling me a dick, by the way. No, I agree with that, and I have no issue with something you wrote. Like, if you think that somebody sucks for what they said on stage, you should blog about it. You should write about it. As long as a person isn't calling for somebody to get in trouble for an opinion or a joke, I have no issue with somebody calling out a comic and going, hey, I think you suck for doing that. As long as there isn't the asterisk which says you should get in trouble for doing that. But yeah, we're not talking...
Sorry, what do you mean by trouble? Like, what is the trouble? Well, people are mad at you? Because people should be mad at you if they...
The trouble I mean, as part of my interruption, is, like, I do Opie and Anthony, the radio show. So a lot of times the trouble people will do is if you're doing jokes they don't like, they begin to target your advertisers. Because the market should dictate whether or not people enjoy you. But they'll go to the advertisers and say, they're making fun of things that we don't like. So remove your financial support, which is a way to punish them. So that's the type of trouble I'm talking about. So if you're not asking for that, then I have no issue with you not liking something.
But if we didn't remove financial support and target advertisers, we'd still have Glenn Beck.
But
I'm just saying, sometimes target the advertisers.
But as a comic, how do you not love Glenn Beck being there?
Okay, you've made a good point, Jim.
I mean, for comedians, the worse things are, the better it is for us. I mean, do you really want a president that's doing a great job and happy? There's nothing to talk about. But the faster things go down the toilet, like, ooh, good, this is going to be a great week.
That's world peace over a funny act. That's a hard choice.
Yeah.
You know, with 20 hours reading Starbucks, you get benefits. I think about that all the time.
Hey, did anybody want to hear Mel Gibson leave a message for his wife? All right, honey, on my way home. Boring. You're a whore. Ooh, play it.
So, I mean, that's the question. I mean, other people say it's like, you know, are comedy clubs inherently hostile environments for women?
Well, they are dark basements full of angry men. So, I mean, there's not a fundamental mental level, it's not an awesome place to be.
And people are drinking.
Yeah, people are drunk, and then there's a big dude on the stage being like, hey, wouldn't it be hilarious if everyone raped that girl? And then everyone laughs. And then, by the way, sometimes everyone does rape that girl, and that's a thing that really happens in the world. Like, I don't mean that the people in that club then, like, rally and they're like, I'm not doing anything. But I mean, like, in the broader scheme of the world, this is a thing that happens. And it's actually really trivializing to say that mocking and exploiting a rape victim's trauma to her face, because there will be women in that audience and probably men who've been sexually assaulted, is the same as, like, making fun of a thing. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same. And you're not...
Even that thing is Hitler?
What do you mean? Like, you weren't being like, hey, wouldn't it be great if someone reanimated Hitler and then...
Oh, wait a minute, let me write this down.
And you knew...
On next week's show, we will be doing
And by the way, it's not like you know that a third of your audience are like Holocaust survivors who like are also being like systematically silenced and told not to don't talk about the Holocaust because no one wants to hear about it, and also you were probably kind of asking for the Holocaust. Like, that is not built into our culture, and so it's not just making a joke about a thing, it's contributing to a culture that perpetuates that thing.
I understand why you would say that, but no, I disagree with that. Whenever, and I understand the emotion behind not wanting people to mock certain things, but nobody ever just comes out and says, you can't say that because I don't like it. Because there's something kind of self-centered and self-serving about that. So it's an instinct to put in a reason why you shouldn't mock it. So people who don't like certain humor say, well, it contributes to a culture, or it contributes to an environment which perpetuates racial stereotypes or sexual stereotypes or this. The same as when religious people say, don't mock my religion, because what it does is it knocks down religion, which knocks down the family, which is bad for the structure of the country. Like, everybody has a reason. Nobody ever thinks, hey, you're saying something I don't like and I don't want you to say it. There's nothing I'm comfortable enough saying that you shouldn't make fun of. And I think as long as your intention is to be funny, I think that we all go into a comedy club knowing that. And there's a great difference between even a harsh rape joke and saying, all kidding aside, folks, rape is good. Like, we all know the difference between that. And
although that was pretty funny. Did you see that exactly there?
Well, you know
that section was like, nice one.
Well, the tap on the table made me look. I think that there's a difference, too, between a comedy club where you understand that we're trying to have an emotion pulled out of us, which is laughter, and standing up at the office party and going, to rape!
First of all, I've seen comedy acts that are not that far away from that. But I'm sure it's super comfortable and nice to believe that there aren't systemic forces that are affected by speech, but that's not true. And those of us who are affected by those forces know that that's not true. And, so, like, I'm sure 60 years ago, there were some hilarious jokes about black people, and, like, comedy was, I hope.
Tom Wolfe created a one-stop shop for small businesses to cut through red tape and help entrepreneurs grow. We're getting
Turing analysis video, I noted that the presentation started off with a history lesson. That got me thinking of how best to start this video off, and in the end I opted for my own little history lesson. A history lesson of graphics from my perspective. My family got our first game console when I was around 3 or 4 years old. It was the Atari VCS, which launched way 1977. The Atari was the first console to make use of sprites, which we all know about today. They weren't called sprites back then. That name came with the Commodore 64 computer, but it's clear from these games, more colourful than I recall actually, that we're looking at sprites by another name. In 1980 though, we got something very different on the Atari. One of the first real 3D games, Battlezone. By today's standards, it was primitive indeed, but back then I assure you, it was quite impressive. Note however that see-through graphics graphics, and there was no hidden line removal. Everything appeared to be made out of wire, and indeed the name given to the technology was wireframe graphics. The Atari was very late 70s, early 80s, but in 1982 a home computer launched that would change my world. It was the ZX Spectrum, an 8-bit computer developed by UK company Sinclair Research. Here we can see the original model with rubber keys. Yes, actual rubber keys. The model that I owned, and the first computer I ever owned was this one, the ZX Spectrum Plus, which launched at the end of 1984. The Spectrum was an incredibly popular computer in the UK especially, and it went on to sell 5 million units worldwide. Anyone around from that time will know of the strong rivalry between the Spectrum and the Commodore 64, a computer which was much more popular in the United States. But it was the cheap prices of computers like the Spectrum which really kicked off the PC gaming industry. The first Spectrum games barely looked better than the Atari VCS, but it wasn't long before some very smart programmers started getting the best out of these cheap computers. One of them was David Braben, who alongside Ian Bell co-developed the smash hit space combat and trading sim Elite. Even with around 1 frame per second and still using wireframe graphics. But now with hidden line removal technology, Elite was a game-changing and world-changing experience for me, for it allowed me to lose myself in a fictional game universe. Elite went on to be one of the greatest, most famous and most influential computer games ever created. The 16-bit era was upon us with computers like the Atari ST and Commodore Amiga, arriving in the mid to late 80s. While I would go on to own both of those computers, I still had my Spectrum until late 87. It was a very old and underpowered computer by that stage, but some great programming techniques made for some almost unbelievable advances. A British company named Incentive Software launched the game Driller, created with their in-house 3D game engine, Freescape. Up till now, even the 16-bit computers were thought only capable of wireframe graphics, but Freescape proved that even the lowly ZX Spectrum could be capable of solid 3D. Forget that it was running under a frame per second, that didn't matter. What mattered was that our virtual worlds were now even more realistic. A few months later, and an obscure game by the name of Zarch launched, a strange flight combat game created by David Braben, and some incredible solid 3D graphics running on the extremely powerful Acorn Archimedes home computer. Acorn computers went defunct in 2000, but you may have heard of one of their subsidiaries, ARM Holdings.